Could it be the case that God can reach into any story and make something beautiful? You know, for many of us over the course of our lives, there's a lot of things that maybe we've done. There's a lot of shame that we carry. Or maybe there's some things that have happened in our life that could make us feel like there's no way that God could ever use us again. Well, today, we've got a story from a brother of ours that I think pushes against that and shows us just how incredible God's grace is in our weaknesses.
Recovery can be hard, but it's worth it. There is hope knowing we can find healing one step at a time with Jesus and healthy community. Whether you're struggling with a hurt or a hang-up or a habit, you're not alone. During this podcast, we share real stories, practical tools, and powerful truths that inspire you to keep moving forward. No matter where you are on your journey, there's hope ahead. So stick with us as we walk this path together through Celebrate Recovery.
Well, welcome to Hope in Recovery, a Celebrate Recovery podcast that's here to help share life change stories and healing conversations over this incredible topic of recovery and the way that Jesus reaches into our life to bring healing and hope in the middle of it. And we just want to say thank you for being here and listening along. And hey, you know, if you've been listening to this and it's been giving you some hope along the way, if it's been spurring you ahead in your journey, would you mind sharing this, maybe giving it a 5-star review? It really helps to get the word out and help to spread the hope of how Jesus meets us in the middle of our mess. And we're really excited about our conversation today because it's exactly about that, how Jesus meets us in the middle of our mess to bring healing and hope. And so we're super glad to be with you today. My name is Andy Petrie. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with sexual addiction, anxiety, depression, and grief. And again, my name's Andy, filling in for Rodney today, and I'm super excited. I've got a great friend and brother here with me. Hey man, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, struggle with alcoholism, lust, food binging, anxiety, and depression, and my name's Hudson.
Well, hey, Hudson, super glad that we've got you with us today to just share a little bit of your story and what it's looked like for God to kind of meet you in the middle of your struggles and weaknesses, man. And so, dude, thanks for being willing to step on here and share, brother. So, hey, let's just kind of start at the beginning, man. Where are you from? And you know, kind of what does that look like, man? Where do you come from, dude?
Oh, man, I come from the incredible metropolis of Bluff Creek, Louisiana.
All right.
It's just north of Baton Rouge. My dad and grandpa always would joke that we have more cows than people, because it's true. And my grandpa called it the hub of the universe. I like to call it the hub cap. Not a lot going on. But yeah, that's where I'm from. Grew up there. My grandpa actually started a church there in Bluff Creek in his camp.
Okay.
Back in the 80s. And I say that because, you know, he became a pastor and then moved several different times to different cities. And then my dad came on, and he was the youth pastor since I was extremely little, and then kind of worked his way up. Yeah. And yeah, just pastor's kid growing up in rural Louisiana. And yeah, that's really where it started.
Yeah. So small town Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
And not just a pastor's kid, but it seems like there's a legacy of pastors in your family, man.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
And so, dude, what did it look like to grow up in a family where grandpa was a pastor, dad was youth pastor, and how many siblings do you have, man?
I have 3 siblings. I have an older sister who's a couple years older than me, younger brother who's 3 years, and then I got a little sister who's 15 years younger than me.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, got 3 siblings.
All right, cool. So 3 siblings. So you're one of 4. Dad's a pastor. Grandpa's a pastor. Was Dad working in Grandpa's church? What did it look like to kind of grow up in that space, man?
Yeah. So growing up, Dad was a pastor. Grandpa was a pastor, and there were sweet things about it. From a very young age, I was always at church since I was 3 weeks old. My dad would joke I haven't missed a Sunday. So it was just, constantly at church, and I love that side of it. I believe I came to faith at a young age, like 9 years old, and but the other side of it was that you kind of feel like you grow up in a fishbowl, meaning like.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so, and especially in a small town, if you have a well-known family, you have to be very careful about what you do. Like, I remember talks when I was little, like, hey, you're representing our family. You're going to go spend the night at this person's house. Like, act right, and that was from a very young age.
Yeah.
Which is understandable, but to me, I remember just always having a pressure. You can't be anything but the best you can be around people that are outside the family.
Oh, man. So, dude, how old do you think you were whenever you first kind of started hearing that and that kind of message and started taking that in? And what did that do to you, man?
Yeah, probably when we moved from Clinton, Louisiana to Zachary with the church. I was in 4th grade, and I went from a school of about maybe 20 kids in my class to going to 430.
Oh, wow.
And not knowing a soul. So I remember that just when we moved there, I think it all kind of came to the top of my mind because, you're in this place, you don't know anybody, but you're still remembering, okay, I went my whole life, everybody knew me, to now no one knows me. And that these people are strangers. And I just remember that anxiety of, I don't want to make a bad impression because I remember, our family is very important. We got a new church in the community, and we need to make a good name for ourselves.
Man, how old were you? So you said 4th grade?
Probably 12,
Jeez.
maybe 10 to 12.
10 to 12. Man, that's a lot to hold for a 10-year-old, man. And you even just mentioned just like some anxiety coming up with that. I want to make sure I make a good impression. I want to make sure that maybe my family is seen a certain way. But it's all tied in with faith too. And man, what did you start to believe about yourself, man?
I always have felt like I have been not enough. Like one day, if I keep reading my Bible, keep praying, grow up and become a pastor, which is something I wanted to do since I was a little kid. But
follow dad and grandpa.
Yeah, follow dad and grandpa. And it was basically the expectation on me. But from a little kid, like I always felt like one day I'll get there, and I'll be as good as my dad or as good as my Paul Scott and good as Christians, men, good fathers. But right now I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Hey man, when do you think you first started feeling that way?
Probably mainly once I got into middle school. Started really feeling, because, about 13 is when I remember distinctly praying this prayer, and part of it was probably a little bit of a rebellious pastor's kid, but I just remember, all right, Lord, if you let me do what I want, from middle school to high school, after high school, I'll come back to you. I remember praying that prayer. And I think part of that prayer was I was just angry at the pressure of feeling like I got to be something that is just not who I am.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that level of pressure. Looking back, I definitely wasn't. And I think it was just a little bit of like, forget you guys. I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
Because if you can't live up to it, after a while, the frustration just builds. And I think I just kind of had that forget about it attitude, from that point forward.
Yeah, man. So you're painting kind of a vivid picture here, man. Second oldest, but the oldest boy of 4, which I'm guessing probably meant something for your family. Grandpa's a pastor. Seems like a fairly successful pastor. Dad is following right in his footsteps, and naturally Hudson's going to follow along in that as well. Right. But with that comes an expectation with the family, which happens in families where, parents are in ministry, but it also happens in regular families too. But not feeling like I'm enough, getting frustrated at the pressure that's put on me. Let me ask you this, man. What evidence did you see in your life that you weren't enough? What was confirming that for you?
I was so something happened in fourth grade, and it was just kind of a bullying event. And, going from everybody knows me, everybody knows my family, and then getting in this school of, 8 times as many kids, and then these girls came up and kind of bullied me. And that's when I realized, okay, people might not be safe. And so I started feeling the anxiety from that, like, oh man, people aren't what I thought they were. But then really when I hit 13, that's when I started drinking, and I started, my 10-year pornography addiction was at 13. And the guilt and shame that I felt from drinking, but then the anger at, I don't even understand why this is this bad. Nobody tells me, they just tell me it's bad. Everybody I know seems to drink. Everybody's parents seems to drink. My family was very against alcohol. And then of course porn, you instant shame with that, that's wrong. So just aggravation of carrying shame and guilt all the time, and then having no support, like no safe person to talk to. Because I was afraid, of the consequences of, sharing where I'm struggling, because it wasn't a safe place to share.
Man, you just laid out a lot there. I want to make sure that we don't miss that there. So there was, experience some bullying growing up, experience this really common thread of, man, people aren't accepting me maybe the way that I thought they were. Does that feel right? Mm-hmm. People aren't accepting me the way that I thought they would. In that natural question that seems pretty common, I know in my story of like, well, if they're not giving me what I thought they'd be giving me, then there must be something wrong with me because of that. Did that make you fearful of putting yourself out there?
Extremely.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. A lot of people I talked to later thought I was stuck up because I wouldn't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
But the reality was I was so incredibly scared of putting myself out there and then being rejected again.
Man.
So yeah, I didn't really have a friend,
man,
through middle school or high school.
Jeez. And a lot of that is what led to 13 kind of stumbling across alcohol and pornography. Right. And then that just kind of hooked you for the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. Man. Well, dude, as you think back on that time, let's just kind of fast forward a little bit. So was alcohol basically your life after you found it? What did alcohol do for you, man?
Yeah, so the shyness and anxiety, it would make it go away to an extent. So that was how I saw it, that was my way to get friends. I was been so lonely, and I'm so afraid of, being exposed and bullied again, that this is, it made sense, why not do this? And so from that point on, like, if I could drink, I would, and I would drink as much as we possibly could, as much as we could get. And even my older cousin, who we were kind of partners in crime in this, even I would make him nervous just because of how much I wanted to drink, because I was just tired of feeling anxious and shy and shameful all the time.
Man, just trying to check out, trying to escape the pain, trying to feel something other than you're always feeling.
Yep. Man.
Well, dude, hey, real quick, we're going to go to a break here in a second, but before we do, man, sounds like that was your life up until your early 20s, and I know your story a little bit, man, but what happened once you kind of graduated high school? Take us through that that space, and how did it all come to a head?
Yeah, so I ended up coming out of a bad breakup my senior year, and I thought, I know I'm not supposed to be drinking. I know I'm not supposed to be looking at porn. So what would probably fix me and make my family proud was I should go to Bible school. Which is not, looking back, is not the best reason to go to Bible college. So that's what I did. After a year out of high school, I failed out of a college nearby my house, and my dad's like, "Well, I'm not paying anymore for your school."
Fair,
yeah. So that was when I got this idea. My older cousin Bucky, who was my partner in crime, he went to the Bible college, and people seemed to be proud of him. So I was like, "Well, hey, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to be a pastor one day. Might as well go." So that's where I went, and it was actually a great experience. It was in Highlands College out of Birmingham, and I got to move away from the family and kind of be my own person in a way. My family was still pretty popular at this church. I was related to the senior pastor, so there's still a little bit of that fishbowl.
Yeah.
But it was a little better, and so yeah, that's kind of where I came out of that. Did well the first year, and then just through some bullying from my roommates who were in the college at the time, just kind of fell right back into my coping mechanism, which were porn and alcohol. After a year of sobriety from it, the first year there. So it was just kind of fell right back into that, and then took the easy way out, which was just to go back and work at my dad's church.
Oh, man. Well, I'm excited to get to that after the break, but man, so went to Bible college, had a good experience, had a little bit of freedom, but fell right back into it after life started throwing you curveballs. You get out of Bible college, and now you are stepping into the family legacy. You're on staff at Dad's church now, and we'll pick up after the break. Hey, friends. You might be wondering if Celebrate Recovery is for me. One of the things that is pretty common to think is that Celebrate Recovery must only be for people who struggle with drugs or alcohol. But that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, out of all the people who attend Celebrate Recovery around the world, over 2/3 of them come in for an issue other than drugs or alcohol. Some of the reasons someone might attend Celebrate Recovery are for codependency, anger issues, sexual addiction, being an adult child of family dysfunction, eating disorders, struggling with effects of abuse, or maybe mental health issues. And that's just to name a few. We truly believe that everyone can benefit from Celebrate Recovery. If there's an issue in your life that's holding you back or causing you pain, Celebrate Recovery is for you. Every Friday night, we have Celebrate Recovery meetings at Fellowship Fayetteville and Fellowship Rogers. 6 o'clock, we have a great meal and a time of connection with other brothers and sisters in recovery. And then we have our large group meeting at 7, followed by our open chair groups at 8. It's the same schedule on both campuses, different teachers, different worship teams, but the same great experience. And we would love for you to join us this Friday night. It is never too late to start or start over again. For more information, check us out at fellowshipcr.org. All right, and we're back. So Hudson, you're bringing us into your story. Growing up, son of a pastor,
Preacher man,
who himself was the son of a pastor. So 2 generations before you, pastor. Sounds like you've got other family members as well that are in that space. Family pressure to step into that, stepping into childhood. A lot of feelings of inadequacy, not being enough. Man, will people really, really love me if I show them who I really am? And all of that kind of led to this discovery of alcohol and pornography as a way to escape and cope. Became your life. Got out of high school, flunked out of college, so you went to Bible college to make everybody happy and proud of you. Found a little bit of freedom there, but fell back into it. And now, how old are you when you came out of Bible college?
I think I'm 21, 22, coming out of Bible college.
21, 22, coming out of Bible college. Still struggling with alcohol and pornography, but hey, you've stepped into where you thought you'd always be. You're on staff at your dad's church. And so, man, doesn't sound like that is the best recipe for success where you're at, but what did it look like those years coming out of Bible college?
Yeah, so, it started off okay. Really wasn't that bad, but as I continued, I would have a couple months of sobriety, then I'd fall back in kind of that yo-yo sobriety, and
a little bit of that white knuckle in it,
yeah,
under your own strength.
Yeah, and a lot of the guilt and shame, like I'm on staff at a church, man. Like, what are you doing?
And did anybody know that you were struggling?
No one knew the extent. I had a guy that been discipling me really since like 2017, and Pastor Paul, he kind of knew where I was at, but not nearly the extent of what I was actually doing. So again, alone, and just I literally lived alone. They built a little room for me in the back of the church, and that's where I lived. Which was, it was fine, but just looking back and me being an extrovert, it was probably one of the most unhealthy things I could have done. And then the church environment wasn't great, just with the expectation on me and being so young, and then walking through these addictions.
Yeah. So you're on staff at a church now, which comes this self-imposed expectation that I've got to look like I'm on staff at a church. Nobody knows the extent of my struggle, probably still operating out of that. I'm too afraid to let people into that space. What if they truly know me? And on top of that, living alone. So you got isolation, hiding, and unrealistic expectations of yourself, man. How did that play out, dude?
Not good. So it all kind of ended with, fast forward, we got COVID is coming, and right before COVID hit, I finally called my brother-in-law and my sister, and I was drunk on the phone, and I scared them because they didn't realize the extent of what I had been doing. And so the next day, my brother-in-law comes and he packs up all my stuff for me, and he moves me in with them, and which was a sweet few months. Found kind of, again, some white-knuckled sobriety, and then told my dad what was going on. First time I told him, I brought Pastor Paul with me because I was afraid of the consequences of what I was doing. And at that time, Pastor Paul really wanted me to go to a rehab. Probably would have been great for me, but just my dad, and mom weren't very familiar with that kind of stuff, and kind of had some theological opposition to that. So
they hadn't had much experience with this and what that looked like, and
not at all.
They didn't have the tools to process it right there.
Yeah. They had nobody in their family really had struggled with it.
Yeah.
So going from that, I stayed working at the church for a few months, and then brilliantly, I went on a Mexican vacation with my family, again alone in a hotel room full of alcohol. And of course, I relapsed on the trip. Then came back, pretended I had COVID for a week, and just binge drank for a week. Man. And after that, that's when my sister's like, "Hey, you can't live with this anymore." And went back, told my dad that time it was not a good experience with telling him.
Yeah.
That's when I was fired from the church. And just really lowest of low. And, during that time, it was cool how God was starting to bring people around me that were going to help me. I met who was going to be my wife around that time. And Pastor Paul really started, because what I did was I went to him first.
Yeah.
And I remember just going into his office and, hey, this is where I'm actually at. At this point, I was drinking probably a fifth a day. And just remember the love that he looked at me with. Man, he hated that I was doing it, but he didn't hate me for doing it.
Ooh.
He just loved me and he wanted me to get better. And so that started a really close relationship with him during that time. But so he got fired from the church and ended up a guy at the church who had asked me a while back about working for him at State Farm. Ended up calling him back because I needed a job. And he hired me at State Farm, and it ended up working out because he was a former alcoholic himself.
Oh, man.
So just kind of just a God thing. So between getting really close to him and Pastor Paul, and then they took me to an addiction counselor during that time, I had screwed up again a few months later.
Yeah.
And
had some trouble getting some traction on it.
Yeah, had some trouble. And just when I screwed up again, living with my parents, now working for State Farm, it was just too much for my mind to handle.
Yeah.
And so I had, looking back, what was a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
My brain did not know how to deal with life on life's terms without alcohol or porn. So that was when I truly broke down, and that's actually when it truly got real for my parents.
Yeah.
They saw, some suicidal ideation. I had written a note like, I'm leaving, sorry for being a screw up. Like, I remember that morning, I called Pastor Paul, and it's like 3 or 4 in the morning. That's when he wakes up because he's crazy. But I called him, and I told him I'm about to leave and what happened. And I remember him just saying, hey, don't leave. You don't need to go join the Air Force, because that was my plan. Run away again. And he's like, why don't we just take one more day? One more day. We'll deal with this together. And there was hundreds of phone calls like that the next year. Man. I remember that.
So that was that kind of rock bottom moment of, God, I can't do this. I need you.
Yeah.
And man, what a loving voice on the other end of the line. Hey, we're in this together. Let's take it one more day. And so, dude, what's interesting is we're sitting here on a Celebrate Recovery podcast, and we haven't gotten to that yet. And so, man, so you started your journey of healing there. What did it look like for you to get plugged into Celebrate Recovery? And how did that start impacting you, man?
Yeah, so me and Pastor Paul went through it a little bit one-on-one. Due to my family, still want to protect their name, I wasn't allowed to share my struggles publicly.
Oh, man.
So that was, me and him kind of did it one-on-one, and it helped getting through some of the principles. And then, I had about 4 years of sobriety, worked at State Farm, and kind of, was doing a lot better. Got married in that time period.
Yeah.
And, which was great for me. My wife is, definitely part of the grace of God in my life.
Yeah.
God just knew when to bring her in.
Yeah.
It was the perfect time. I needed something to fight for.
Yeah.
And, that was a big part of my reason. And so got married and was working at State Farm and did not like it.
Yeah.
I did not like it. And so Pastor Paul has always told us about, he's been friends with one of the guys that was in the beginning of Fellowship Bible here in Northwest Arkansas, and for like 30 years. And he's always loved the way they do church here and team play. And he told us, hey, there's this guy, Chip Jackson, he'll host you guys, and I just want y'all to go breathe the air of this church. That's all he said.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. So I only had 2 weeks of vacation. So I took one of my weeks, and we came up here, and they just treated us so well.
Yeah. Just
like a family. And at the end of it, Chip told us about the residency, which is just a year internship with Fellowship Bible. And I talked to my wife, and she was going to go straight into law school, but she agreed that this might be a good fit. And so we decided to move up here. And after hearing my story, Carrie was like, what would be a great fit for you for the residency would be Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah. Well, tell us about your first time attending Celebrate Recovery? Because it was on that trip when
Yeah.
you came up here. That was the first time you'd really heard about it.
Yeah, so we actually had lunch with Rodney that day. And I just remember he was the only staff person I told about my actual struggles. I remember him just looking at me. He's like, well, man, you're one of us. Welcome. And, and he's doing his smile that he always does. But I remember that meant a lot. That meant a lot to me because I'd felt so alone in it. I couldn't talk about it. The people that I could talk about it with never struggled with it. And just to hear that from Rodney, knowing he had. And then I went to CR that night. Me and my wife went. And I remember seeing guys coming up that were just tatted up, these hard guys just bawling their eyes out, going to get a blue chip. And I just remember looking at Eden. I said, I want to be a part of this. This is because I just felt, since Rodney said, like, these are my people, and I just never had a church experience where people were that vulnerable and open.
Yeah.
And just seeing that, man, from that point, I knew if I did the residency, I knew exactly where I wanted to be. So I did put CR as my number one choice.
Man.
But yeah, that's what was my first experience.
Well, what's wild too is you and I got on a Zoom call a couple weeks after that as you were applying for this internship program. And we said, yeah, we want this guy too. And so seeing Celebrate Recovery, you went from that to now you're back on staff at a church and now you're experiencing it, man. And so, dude, what was the experience of Celebrate Recovery like? Because you got plugged into OpenShare, you got plugged into a step study, you started working through stuff. What did God show to you, man?
Yeah, so I know you remember this, but when we first started the residency, we would do kind of an OpenShare thing through the book Life's Healing Choices. And I remember hating it. Because it was so anxiety-filled for me to be open about my struggles because I wasn't allowed to be in a lot of ways and didn't allow myself in a lot of ways. So I remember it was hard, but getting in OpenShare on Friday nights, it was probably like 4 or 5 months in.
Yeah.
I remember starting to look forward to it. Like, this is my 3 minutes, and I'm just going to share what's on my heart with no interruption. No one's going to give me advice. No one's going to judge me. And then all I get is thanks for sharing. I was like, thanks for letting me share. And hearing the other guys around me that are struggling with the same stuff just made me feel so much better about me because everybody's at the same spot. We're all fellow strugglers. And, it also gave me a better love for people because everybody's going through something.
Yeah, it's amazing the comfort that comes with stepping out of isolation. Yeah. Man, so getting into OpenShare, actually starting to be open and vulnerable. Didn't like it at first. Wasn't easy. No. Wasn't fun. But as you stepped into it, you started to crave it. And you jumped into step study as well, man. What did working through the step study material do for you?
I think, so the step study combined with me and, you're in my sponsor relationship, going through those questions and just going deeper and deeper into my stuff and then talking to you about it outside of step study, especially once we got to the inventory.
Yeah. And what did that do for you?
Yeah. I just remember at first it didn't really feel a big difference, but a few weeks later, I just started having a confidence that I had never had. And the confidence and humility, is how I heard it said. And it was just like, somebody finally really knows me and they still love me. It actually endeared me more to them. And it was just shocking for me, but I feel so much more settled in myself that I hadn't had. I just felt safe. Like, this is a safe place for me to share and be vulnerable. And then also just to get to help other guys that are in the same spot.
Man. So it's interesting, man. You stepped in to Celebrate Recovery with sobriety, but you didn't have a lot of recovery. And jumping into it, you started experiencing the joy of stepping out of isolation, the love of others in that place, and I'm guessing the love of God in that place too. And so, man, 2 questions. How are you different now? And if somebody's listening to this right now and thinking, man, I'm in the same spot, what hope would you give them? So how are you different now? What hope would you give somebody listening?
Yeah. How am I different now? You never arrive. I'm not where I want to be, but I am not where I was. I am different in the way that I'm okay with being honest about where I'm really at, which after hearing my story is huge. I'm also different in, I just really love people.
Not scared of them anymore.
I'm not scared of people. And I'm having a drive and excitement to help people come out of where I was at, that I felt disqualified from doing until I got in recovery. So how would I give hope to somebody who's decided maybe they should jump in? Well, it worked for me.
Yeah.
And I see it every week working for a lot of people around me. And it's incredible that Jesus will use this tool, Celebrate Recovery. And I've seen him use it every week just to dive into the hearts of the people that he loves. Let them share what they need to share with their brothers and sisters and with him, and then actually find healing and recovery. It works if you work it. I think that's what we say, right? It works if you work it. So if you're going to jump in, don't wait, and give 100% of yourself to it, because it works, and Jesus will use it to save you.
Man. Well, Hudson, I'm so grateful for you, man. I'm grateful for the way that you're now leading and giving back and serving and on staff with us, man. It's amazing what God has done in your life and what he's going to continue to do. And I know we could talk a whole lot more about that, but we've already taken up enough time here. But man, I just love and appreciate you, man. Well, hey, if you are listening to this right now and maybe you resonate with Hudson's story, maybe you can understand what that isolated place feels like. Maybe you understand the weight of expectations, and maybe, like me, all you see is the ways that you fall short. Could it be the case that we have a God that is so incredible, so loving, so kind to us in the middle of our brokenness, that he says, hey, it's not about your strengths. It's not about the way that you have it all together, but it's about the way that I love you, and it's my strength and power to change you, not your qualifications. In 2 Corinthians 12:9, it says, my grace is enough for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. That's a promise that God gives us when we let him into those broken and hard places. He makes our mess a message in him. We love you so much. We'll see you next week.